Today's video is going to be focused on teaching a young learner. So this is going to be for the preschool aged child up until like kindergarten, first grade, so like 5 and 6 year olds. And I think a lot of it can apply to older children, but you know, it's more for little kids. First, a little bit about me. I'm really excited about making this today because I've raised little kids several times. So this is where I really feel very comfortable at this point. I have 5 children. One is a 9-month-old, but I also have a 3-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 12-year-old. And we went into parenting and having kids with the intention to homeschool. So that's always been in our minds. Our kids have attended classes outside of home, but in general, we've homeschooled them from preschool all the way through to today. So first of all, I just want to share a little bit of philosophy with you, and I'll be sprinkling this in throughout the video. I know a lot of you out there are kind of feeling thrust into this right now and might be feeling overwhelmed or not qualified or just busy. And this wasn't what you were planning. But I want to reassure you that you can do this, especially with a preschool age child. It is more about just introducing them to life than it is about really giving them a formal education at this point. So I just want to like reassure you that if you are just parenting them and loving on them, you are doing enough and you're doing a great job. And if your goal really is an actual formal preschool education, it really can be accomplished in a very focused 15 minutes of your day. You do not need to worry about putting more time into this. It does not need to be a full day where you're having lesson plans and things all planned and worked out. Young childhood really should be mostly about play for them and about them joining you in your day and just learning about what life is like. So if you're feeling up to it, I recommend you invite them with you when you're cooking or when you're cleaning up around the house or just whatever you're doing, just explain it to them. If you're working in a garden or reading a book, take a little bit of time to explain what you're doing and why. And that really is enough. You can go the extra mile by, say, while you're cooking, you can explain measurements, or you can talk about the color of the fruit that you're putting into a fruit salad, or whatever you're doing. That's preschool. That's young childhood education. It doesn't have to be something that you spend a lot of money on or really put a lot of time into organizing. I'm going to give you some great ideas right now and share some products that I do love, but I just want to assure you that these things are not necessary. You being there is the most important thing. Okay, I'm going to share a variety of things that range from free to somewhat of a cost, but overall, you don't need to put a big financial investment into your preschool products. So my one huge tip that has to go overlooked is to buy a laminator. So they look like this. I think this one was $25 and I've had it for about 7 years. Again, this is not necessary, but I find it very helpful, and I actually have found that it saves me a lot of money to have this laminator. This is a laminator pouch. You need to buy these too. They end up being kind of where a lot of the costs go to, but you get, I think, about 100 for, I don't know offhand, like maybe $16 or $20, and that could be totally wrong. I'm sorry, I haven't bought them in a while. Don't get stressed out when you see it asking about the size, because there's a 5mm and 3mm sizing. Both work fine. I usually lean towards the 5 because it's just a little thicker, but it honestly doesn't matter. So the reason why laminators are so great is because you can create wonderful reusable products to use with your child. And you can find things to print out online all over the place, either for free on various blog posts, or you can go to a site like Etsy or Teachers Pay Teachers, and you can find these great printables that you can pay for, and then you can laminate your products, and it just gives them a little bit of longevity. Here's an example of something I purchased off Etsy. This was not something I needed to pay for. I'm just trying to like make my house cute, and like it's not totally working, but but I'm trying. I'm putting in some effort right now to get a little like cuter, but I don't know. I purchased some printable days of the week lettering off of Etsy, and I just printed these out on regular paper, and then I cut out the words, and then I put a bunch of them in the laminator pouch. You can use one pouch for a lot of stuff. And then I cut out what I laminated and I put a magnetic strip on the back. And then I use these for our like calendar time in the morning, and I just stick them to the refrigerator. You don't need to laminate this. It doesn't need to be magnetic. You don't need to buy lettering off Etsy. You can just open up like a Word document and write words in whatever font you want, and it'll be free to you. This is just what I do in one way that a laminator has helped me. You can also find lots of different calendar products online or wherever you shop, but this was kind of nice because I got to really pick out something cute and customize it to what I wanted. I got these months of the year, and they were also downloadable things that I could print out from Etsy. Numbers too. You can also print out worksheets, or if you have a worksheet from something else at home, you can laminate it and then they can use a dry erase marker, work on it, and then just erase it. And that's really awesome, especially when you're in that preschool young child age and they're doing things like letters and numbers and it's just over and over the same stuff. It's really helpful. Here's another thing. If you can get this font, it's a dot font. My dad was a teacher and he actually invented a font like 20 years ago that was called dot font, and he was very proud of it. And it was basically lettering like this. I'm sure now it exists all over the place, but you can just write whatever words you want and then laminate it and bind it if you want, or you could punch a hole in your laminated sheets and put it on like a key ring, or you could just have it on a sheet of paper. Make a sheet of paper with whatever words you're working on, whatever size you want it to be, just print it out and laminate it. They also have pouches that work like laminator pouches, but they're reusable. So you can buy like 5 to 10 of them and just take sheets in and out, and they can use a dry eraser on that. So you don't need a laminator. I just really enjoy them. And for things like cutting out smaller items, you're going to need it laminated and not just in a pouch. Another fun thing we laminated were these little fish, because Duncan really likes fish, and I printed out a pond for him and he was able to like put his fish in the pond, and he was having a lot of fun with that. And you can talk about colors and lots of things with stuff like this. And we also printed out cars for the kid's cousin Flynn, because he loves cars, and I put little magnets on the back of that, and that was fun for him to play with. And you can do it with letters too, like you can basically do it with anything. So I find that really helpful, and it keeps costs down for me. And laminating things is a great segue to this awesome project. So I have this tray for Duncan. You don't need the tray, but works really well. So I've got this tray, and inside of it I laminated these printables, and this was a free printable. I will tell you the resource, give me 1 second. So I found it on a blog called From ABCs to ACTs, and it says here that she also has resources on Teachers Pay Teachers. So if you want to pay to adjust these, you can, but this was free, and you could print out the whole alphabet. Looks like that. And what you can do with these, and you can also use this with just cardstock or with one of those slide-in sheets like I was talking about, but I laminated all of them because what you can do is you roll out Play-Doh or whatever sort of dough thing you have at home, and the kids can make letters out of their Play-Doh. And they have this little design to make it easy for them and to show them how to place their dough on the letters. I felt kind of silly because I got like halfway through and I realized I could have printed it out on 2 sheets and like laminated 2 sides. So I kind of regret that. I was like, learn from my mistakes, people. And you can make your own Play-Doh. There's a recipe for it on that same blog post that I was talking about, and all over the place on the internet. And I think we're probably going to be making our own Play-Doh sometime in the next week, so check that out. I'll teach you how we do it. That tray works really well for us. Play-Doh is not a great activity for carpeted spaces, so I like to have like a spot mat and the tray, and that seems to keep it pretty contained right now for us, but I understand if you're not a Play-Doh family, because it can be tricky depending on what kind of space you have. One of my goals for my kids, especially when starting at a young age and really establishing what education will mean to them, was to get them excited about the elements of learning. So to look forward to getting a book read to them and to be interested when they're doing things like art as opposed to wanting to do something else. And when considering that, I thought about what obstacles might get in the way of that goal. And my biggest concern was having too much easy entertainment, because I feel like I personally, if I'm watching a show that I just really love, that's all I want to do. Like, even when offered something that I normally like doing a craft, if I'm in the middle of a series that I'm like obsessed with and I get interrupted to do a craft that I usually love, I get irritable, I'm not as interested, I'm kind of grumpy. I noticed that with my kids as well. So we do try our best to limit screen time. I absolutely have had days where I'm just like, just watch your show, sweetie. That happens, and I'm not judging screen time usage. I just wanna share what I've learned, and I feel like I've identified as something that can make it harder for me to also teach my young children. So we really don't have a lot of screen time. And when the kids do have time watching shows or movies or playing on like a tablet, it's usually something that they've gained or like look forward to throughout the day, and not so much something that they expect to just be on all of the time or expect to just have. So I try to make it more about like expectation, and I don't want the expectation to be like, oh, that's there and available to me at any time, because I mean, I personally would choose to do that over learn, and I feel like it's a lot easier for myself as a teacher if my kids don't expect that to be just a regular normal thing that they're having throughout the day. And there are some great educational screen activities that kids can do. And I also love limiting the entertainment only screen stuff, because that means that when they get the educational screen stuff, they're even more excited about that. And that's like a treat and really cool and interesting. As it is, like, it's good stuff. It's just sometimes harder to see that when you're just getting the easy entertainment stuff. And the reason I really identified that is because that's how I feel about it. Like, that's how it serves me. So I do want to share some of my favorite screen resources, and they range from free to a small payment. And I'll tell you what costs money. Starting with free and applicable really to this pandemic time, you can use Zoom or FaceTime, or I think like Google Hangouts, I've never used that one, or Skype. And you can connect with other people, either older relatives or maybe a babysitter that you used to be able to use but can't now, or other family members like an aunt or an uncle, or someone, you know, across the country who you never got to visit with before. And you can create a time in your day that's your story time for your kids with that person. If you really feel like you can't find somebody who's technologically capable and also interested in doing that, as I said, you could reach out to maybe a babysitter or something and see if there's a way you could pay for this, or you can also look up stuff on YouTube, or there's an amazing resource called OutSchool, and I will get to that. I love OutSchool, and I'm about to talk your ears off about OutSchool, but I'll get to that. So what we're personally doing is we have a grandma story time every day. It's at 1 o'clock, and it takes place right after our kids have eaten lunch, and it goes into our 3-year-old's nap time. I love it because there was a long period of time where my kids, who are used to being around family all the time, weren't seeing family. And it was a chance for them to every single day connect with their grandparents. And that has meant so much to them, and it's really been a really, really precious time. Thankfully, we've had grandparents who are able to sign on and who do it for free, and they enjoy it just as much as the kids do. I understand that's not everybody's circumstance, but if somehow you can find that, maybe even reach out to like a nursing home or a church and see if there are some older people who are really looking to connect, especially in this time. Or you could do something that's not live and try to find something on YouTube about reading a book. Like, that's what I'd recommend, is like either doing a puppet show or reading a book, not just a show. Or you could try to find a live stream, like either on YouTube or Twitch. I don't have a recommendation right now because I don't know who's doing stuff like this, but I'm sure it exists. So if you know of something like that, please leave a recommendation in the comments below. I have seen that Mo Willems was doing an art series, and my kids tuned in a little bit to that, and that was really cool. So it doesn't have to be a story. It can also be like an arts and crafts time where they're taught to draw something simple. But it's been really nice to have that as a part of our routine. It's been great for our kids to connect to other humans and remember that humans exist. And it's been really cool to just be able to log on Zoom. My kids actually know how to set up the link and send the link to Grandma and Grandpa in a text, and Grandma and Grandpa just click the button because that's as much as they want to be capable of technology-wise. And I understand it can be really overwhelming or also not even possible. Like for my dad, we wanted to do it and he didn't have a webcam on his computer, but he does have a phone. So we figure out things like FaceTime and that works. And my kids communicate with my dad and they do story time too. I feel like there are some people who get forgotten because they're having to isolate so much. And ideally, I feel like this can be used as an excuse and a way to connect with those people that might need more connection right now. Okay, so now I wanna tell you about OutSchool. I love OutSchool. It is a paid resource, and we've been using OutSchool in our homeschooling before all of this happened, and I love it. It's basically a collection of live classes that are taught through Zoom meetings. Actually, they're not even all live. Some of them have like flexible schedules. I prefer the live ones just because it feels like we're able to stay more accountable with that. However, I have friends that prefer the flex ones, so that, you know, to each his own. So what OutSchool is basically a catalog of whatever you want to learn at the moment. And there are so many creative and interesting teachers who adapt like math, Harry Potter style, or like learning about colonial America as an escape room. Like they do so many different fun learning concepts. So Duncan has done like a preschool morning calendar time class, and he does that a couple times a week. And I love that he can do it with a bunch of other little kids, and they're kids from all over the world. Like it's so neat. We've had kids in our classroom who are from Australia, from England, from Canada, all over the United States, and it's so cool. And the classes are really small. I would say usually they're like 3 to 6 people. During the peak of the stay-at-home orders for the world, I would say that some of the classes reached pretty high numbers, like maybe 17 kids, but that was rare. And generally the goal is more like 3 to 6 kids for the younger ages, 8 or 9 for the older ages. It's just so great because at any moment I can be like, oh, do you guys want to take a class? And they're like, yeah. And I can look up what's happening soon and find a class for my kids in like 5 minutes and just get them on and be like, here you go learn some math. And it helps me a lot in times when I just like need a moment or need a break. And we also have classes that the kids are subscribed to. So I have it on our regular calendar that Duncan has his morning preschool classes a couple days a week, and Bailey has drama classes that she's really invested in. And that's really helpful too. But I like that there's that flexibility where you can have something that's ongoing and is a part of your routine. And that can be a bigger part of your year for planning your education for your kids. But you can also just kind of go like, so you want to take a class? The classes do range in prices. I believe maybe we had a class that was $3 once, but I don't know, that could be wrong. I'd say often classes for Duncan's age are about $5 to $7, and the classes for Bailey and Jacob's age can get up to like $20 a class. It depends. Usually they're more around $12. So that can be costly. However, for us, our kids were in extracurricular activities before all of this, things like gymnastics, and that cost a lot of money. So we're basically just shifting our kids' funds and placing it more into OutSchool classes than we were with the other extracurricular things in the past. And you also don't need to do a ton of them, but I think it's nice to do a couple a month if you feel like you're financially able. And I'm going to leave a code that I think gets you a discount on a first class and then gets us a discount for our kids' classes or something like that. I don't know the particulars, but it's some sort of like you get something, we get something, and that'll be in the info box below. And I hope you try it out and enjoy it because I absolutely love OutSchool. I'm a little nervous about recommending it to a giant audience because I'm worried the classes are gonna fill up now. The one thing I'd recommend is before you get too excited about something like kitchen science or painting or whatever, make sure you check the supplies list and what's required for the class, because sometimes I just get so excited about the thing and I forget that I actually have to have supplies on hand too. So I'll be like, oh my gosh, this starts in 5 minutes, you guys, we have to do it. And then I look at the supplies list and I'm like, oh, never mind, like we can't register for that. So be careful about that if you're impulsive like I am. Another great online resource is called Starfall. I have loved Starfall ever since Bailey was tiny. I've always used it on a computer. They do have a tablet app too. I believe there's a limited amount of it that you can use for free. So go ahead, try it out, see if it's your style and if your kid likes it and if you like it. And then it's a yearly membership and I think it's $30. I've had a subscription to it since forever. So I think I pay $25 because it's like $5 off when you resubscribe, I think. But I feel like that's really reasonable because I absolutely love the program and it has content that's for preschoolers all the way up till 2nd grade, I think, maybe 3rd grade now, but definitely up till 2nd grade. And it's a really nicely laid out program. I found that once my kids are a little bit over 3 years old, they can actually operate it pretty much by themselves. Figuring out how to operate a mouse and like click things is the hardest part. I remember Bailey used to like, you know, want to push down on the whole thing and to learn like right and left clicking and stuff like that. It took a little bit of effort, but she got to a point where she was able to learn it pretty quickly. Duncan right now is able to operate it mostly on his own, but he doesn't necessarily know where to go to. So it's nice to have either an older kid or myself just holding him in my lap and we just go around and play and he learns letter sounds. And that's the main resource I've used to help my kids learn letter sounds and also do early reading. And it's really awesome. Like, it's a great program. 2 other great resources that I love to teach letter sounds and that early reading is Talking Letters or Letter Factory and Talking Words Factory. And it's from Leapfrog and they're, I think, 45 minutes long. And this is what I'm talking about as far as like entertainment that's also educational that they look forward to. I love in that moment when I just want my kid to watch a show for a little bit to pop on the Talking Letters Factory and they're really actively learning letter sounds. It's very well done and they learn things like what the vowels are. And the letter sounds are taught the way that I like them to be taught. There are opinions on these things. And I like it. If you want to know a teacher pet peeve, it's when you have like a card that says the letter U and then it tells you to like practice the sound and then it has a picture of a unicorn and you're like, unicorn. No, you want it to be umbrella, okay? And this really is something that drives me bananas because you want to teach that short sound first. It's very confusing to have a unicorn, even though unicorns are cute. And this is true about lots of letters and letter sounds, like ice cream, like I is for ice cream. You're not supposed to teach the I sound first. You're supposed to teach insect or something like that, because you want them to learn that short sound first. There are just little nuances like that that I can be particular about. And I've found that I really do like Starfall and I like Talking Letters Factory, and they generally meet the criteria that I want for those younger kids. It's the little things. So I hope this was helpful. I really do just want to encourage you just to be there with your kids. This is a weird time and it's stressful and little kids take a lot of energy. You're gonna do great. You got this. They're going to learn a lot just by being with you. So just remember that. Your kids are gonna surprise you so much with how much they soak up and learn. Just talk with them, sing with them, and just be with them, and you're going to do great. And I hope that these other things are helpful for you as well, but they are not necessary. You got this.